7 hardest incidents of Gandhi's leadership. The Salt March, 1924 to 1931. When Gandhi came out of hospital, he went to stay at a friend's house on the beach in Juhu, near Bombay. He prepared himself to change his life again. He decided that he would not work against the British government until 1928, when his time in prison was meant to end. Until then, he would work for peace between groups in India and continue his work to help poor people. Muslims and Hindus had stopped working together, and there were arguments in Congress. At a meeting in Ahmedabad in June 1924, Gandhi cried when he realized that many people at the meeting did not agree with nonviolence. Some Hindus believed that they could not work with other faiths and that violence was acceptable. In September 1924, there was violence between Hindus and Muslims in northern India. Gandhi was staying in Delhi at the house of Muhammad Ali, his old Muslim friend. He felt helpless and hurt, and he decided to fast for 21 days for peace between Hindus and Muslims. He drank only water and at first continued to write letters and to write for his newspaper. No meat was cooked in the house while Gandhi fasted. Charles Andrews came to look after Gandhi as he became weaker. Jawaharlal Nehru was worried about him and came to visit him. They were becoming close friends, and Gandhi began to want Nehru to become India's next great leader. Many other friends visited him: Motilal Nehru, Vinoba Bhave, Abdul Kalam Azad, and Rajagopalachari. After 21 days, Gandhi was very weak. He called everyone together and asked them to be ready to die for peace between Hindus and Muslims. Gandhi asked for prayers and songs before he began to eat again. But the fast did not stop disagreement between Muslims and Hindus, and the violence continued. Although some Muslims continued to follow Gandhi, many no longer wanted to follow him because he was a Hindu. Gandhi traveled again all over the country, talking to the crowds who came to see him about the untouchables and about Khadi. Sometimes there were crowds of 200,000 people, and his voice, which was not strong, could not reach them all. So he sat in silence, and the crowd sat in silence with him. Gandhi visited Bardoli in southern Gujarat and asked Vallabhbhai Patel and a group of followers to stay and work with the untouchables and teach the villagers spinning. In 1928, the farmers in Bardoli were told that they must pay higher taxes. They asked Gandhi to help them to fight these taxes, and Vallabhbhai Patel led the fight. The villagers refused to pay the taxes, and the government began to take land and cows from the villagers instead of the tax. Many villagers were arrested, but there was no violence. Gandhi called another one-day strike, and all over India people stopped working. A few days later, the government stopped the new tax. Prisoners were sent home, and land and animals were returned to the villagers. The news that nonviolence had beaten the government was reported all over India. But there were many who still used violence to fight the British government. For example, Bhagat Singh killed a police officer in Lahore in 1928, and in April 1929, he threw a bomb at a meeting in Delhi. Gandhi and his sons sometimes disagreed. For many years, he had refused to allow his sons to marry. Harilal had married without his father's agreement, but the other 3 sons had obeyed Gandhi. Finally, in 1927, Manilal was allowed to marry at the age of 34, and Ramdas married a few months later. Divadas, who was 27, wanted to marry Rajagopalankari's daughter Lakshmi. The parents told Devadas to wait for 5 years because Lakshmi was very young. In 1928, Maganlal Gandhi died suddenly, at the age of 46. Maganlal had been with Gandhi in South Africa and had worked closely with Gandhi in the ashram. Gandhi was filled with sadness. He was my hands, my feet, and my eyes, one who was dearer to me than my own sons, who never once failed me, he wrote. Many people called Gandhi Bapu, which means father, and Gandhi's sons knew that their father loved many people outside the family. But it must have been difficult to know that Gandhi loved Maganlal, his cousin's son, more than his own sons. In 1930, Gandhi wrote to the Viceroy, the chief of the British government in India, explaining that he was planning another satyagraha. He aimed to change the ideas of the British people through nonviolence. "I do not want to hurt your people," he wrote. He described the problems of the poor villagers and mentioned the salt tax. No one could make or sell salt without paying a tax to the British government. And because salt was used to keep food fresh, as well as for cooking, the tax was especially difficult for poor villagers. Gandhi wanted to meet the viceroy to discuss his letter, but the viceroy did not reply. On the 5th of March, from the ashram, Gandhi said that he was going to fight the salt tax. Vallabhbhai Patel, Jawaharlal Nehru, and his other friends were surprised, and at first disagreed with his plan, because the tax did not seem a serious matter. A British newspaper wrote that it was difficult not to laugh at Gandhi. On the 12th of March, 1930, at 6:30 a.m., Gandhi led 78 people from the ashram and began to march south. The march had been kept secret. It was well organized, and the route had been carefully planned, just over 380 kilometers south through villages to the sea at Dandi, which had been chosen because the sea always left salt on the beach there. Some students went ahead to organize food and sleeping places. All the marchers wore khadi. At 61 years old, Gandhi was the oldest marcher. They marched about 20 kilometers each day and stopped at villages where Gandhi spoke to the villagers about khadi and the need for Hindus to work with the untouchables and with Muslims. Crowds came to see Gandhi, and more people joined the march. Manilal, who was visiting from South Africa, joined the march with Ramdas and Devadas. Every day, Gandhi wrote for the newspapers and spent some time spinning. On the 5th of April, they reached Dandi. In the morning, Gandhi went into the sea and then picked up a handful of salt and showed it to the crowd, and the nation followed. Now the march against the salt tax seemed a clever idea. In one town, 20,000 people went to the beach at night and collected salt. Chakravarti Rajagopalachari marched 230 kilometers with 100 people to collect salt from the beach in Vedaranyam. Salt was made and sold everywhere without tax. The British government began arresting people. Jawaharlal Nehru and Rajagopalachari were put in prison. Ramdas and Devadas Gandhi were also arrested. The police beat the crowds, but there was no violence from the crowds in return. Gandhi was still living near Dandi, sleeping outside with the other marchers. In a letter to the viceroy, he warned that if the salt tax was not stopped, he would march to the salt works at Dharasana, 40 kilometers from Dandi. At midnight on the 4th of May, 30 policemen with guns came to arrest Gandhi. He was taken by train to Bombay and then driven to prison in Pune. But the march went ahead. Sarojini Naidu, with Manilal Gandhi and Pierrello Nayar, Gandhi's secretary, who had joined Gandhi during his visit to the Punjab in 1919, led 2,500 marchers from Dandi to the salt works at Dharasana. Police and soldiers were guarding the salt works. The marchers tried to go into the works, but they were beaten with sticks by the police until they fell, bleeding, to the ground. But none of the marchers lifted a hand against the police. News of the march and of the violence of the police was sent to newspapers all over the world, and the British government became unpopular with other countries. Sarojini Naidu and Manilal were arrested. About 90,000 Indians were arrested during 1930, and the British government realized that it could not continue to keep so many people in prison. At the end of 1931, Gandhi and other leaders were released and asked to come to talk to the viceroy in Delhi. Gandhi, Nehru, Patel, and other Congress leaders stayed with Dr. Ansari, a Muslim Congress leader. Every day, Gandhi walked 8 kilometers to meet the viceroy in his beautiful new palace, a large and extremely expensive building. Every day after the meeting, he walked back to talk with the other leaders. After 2 weeks, agreement was reached. Prisoners were sent home, and people were allowed to collect salt, though the tax remained. And Gandhi, with other leaders, was invited to London to talk to the British government. On the 29th of August 1931, Gandhi sailed from Bombay with a small team. His son Devadas, Sarojini Naidu, his secretaries Mahadev Desai and Pierrelal Nayar, and Meera Slade, a British woman who had joined the ashram in 1925 and who had become one of Gandhi's closest helpers. While he was in London, Gandhi met the film actor Charlie Chaplin, the writer George Bernard Shaw, and many other famous people. He had tea with King George V, and he spoke at a vegetarian meeting. Gandhi did not stay in a famous hotel, but in a poor house in the East End of London where he slept on the floor. He walked through the streets, and children followed him. He traveled to the north of England to meet factory workers who had lost jobs because of Gandhi's work against foreign textiles. Newspapers were interested in everything about Gandhi, and he became popular with many British people. But the meetings about India's future were not successful. To the British government, Gandhi was only one of many Indian leaders who did not agree with each other. Gandhi wanted all Indians to work together to make the British leave India. But Muslim leaders wanted a separate assembly, and Dr. Ambedkar, the leader of the Untouchables, also wanted a separate assembly. They did not want Gandhi to speak for them. The British were not leaving India yet. Nouns. 1. Salt, a seasoning substance. 2. March, a protest walk. 3. Hospital, a medical treatment facility. 4. Beach, sandy shore by the sea. 5. Government, ruling body of a nation. 6. Prison, place for confining criminals. 7. Peace, absence of conflict. 8. Arguments, reasons given to support ideas. 9. Congress, a legislative assembly. 10. Taxes, compulsory financial charges. 11. Cows, domesticated farm animals for milk or beef. 12. Strike, a work stoppage protest. 13. Bomb, explosive weapon. 14. Agreement, a mutual understanding. 15. Silence, absence of sound. 16. Chief, a leader. 17. Cousin, child of one's uncle or aunt. 18. Route, a path or course. 19. Handful, a small number or quantity. 20. Sticks, pieces of wood. 21. Secretary, an official assistant. 22. Palace, a royal residence. 23. Actor, a performer in plays or movies. 24. Vegetarian, a non-meat eater. 25. Assembly, a gathering of people. 26. Foreign textiles, fabrics from other countries. Verbs, base be, exist. 2. Prepare, make ready. 3. Mean, signify. 4. Realize, become aware. 5. Hurt, cause pain. 6. Look after, take care of. 7. Reach, stretch to touch. 8. Spin, rotate quickly. 9. Refuse, decline. 10. Throw, propel through air. 11. Allow, permit. 12. Marry, wed. 13. Obey, follow orders. 14. Describe, explain in words. 15. Reply, respond. 16. Mention, briefly refer to. 17. Organize, arrange systematically. 18. Fill, make full. 19. Arrest, take into custody. 20. Return, go back. 21. In form of danger. 22. Release, set free. 23. Remain, stay. 24. Invite, ask to join. 25. Sail, travel by boat. 26. Walk, move on foot. Phrasal verbs, come out, be revealed. 2. Go into, enter. 3. Pick up, collect. 4. Walk through, guide through. Adjectives. 1. Acceptable, suitable. 2. Helpless, unable to act. 3. Beaten, defeated. 4. Dear, beloved. 5. Fresh, newly made. 6. Especially notably. 7. Surprised, taken aback. 8. Serious, important. 9. Secret, hidden. 10. Closely, near. 11. Filled, full. 12. Clever, smart. 13. Arrested, taken into custody. 14. Seriously injured, badly hurt. 15. Extremely, very. 16. Interested, curious. 17. Successful, achieving goals. 18. Separate, distinct. 19. Famous, well known. Adverbs. 1. Suddenly, unexpectedly. 2. Carefully, cautiously. 3. Closely, near. Prepositions. 1. Against, opposed to. 2. Instead, as an alternative. Conjunctions. 1. Yet but.